Hello, I'm Courtney Riley, a second-year grad student in the Master's of Student Affairs concentration at the University of Maryland College Park. My professional interests, which were inspired by my own college experience, centers around different areas of college access. I went to a Midwestern, predominantly white institution on a full tuition college access leadership and academic scholarship called POSSE. College access has long been a controversial or hot topic. Historically, higher education was very exclusive, reserved solely for white, affluent males, typically with interest in religion or the classics. As education became more accessible for marginalized groups like white women, segregated institutions for students of color, namely black men and women, and individuals with a range of different physical disabilities, each time was a major source of contention. Fast forward to the last few decades, and the discourse promoting access and diversity and then inclusion has become even more popular. For universities, researchers, policymakers, and even philanthropists like Bill Gates, who created the Gates Millennium Scholars Program. This hot topic was inspired by several articles produced in the latter months of 2016 when Georgetown announced its new admissions policy. Several credible news sources gave their perspectives on it. For example, New York Times had an article titled, "Georgetown University Plans to Steps to Atone for Slave Past," and the Washington Post had an article titled, "Georgetown Takes Good First Steps to Address Its Ties to Slavery, but More Will Be Needed." In September 2016, Georgetown's president publicly acknowledged the university's role in the institution of slavery and explained that 272 slaves that worked on Jesuit plantations were sold in 1838 to pay off debts and keep the university afloat. With this announcement, it was also shared that the descendants of those slaves would receive preferential access to Georgetown University during the admissions process. This policy change came amidst a movement of students from several different colleges and universities pleading with their administrations to acknowledge and atone for their institution's historical roots in slavery, racism, and discrimination. While I don't know the university's true motives, I commend Georgetown for publicly admitting and apologizing for its involvement in slavery and trying to do something to confront and rectify the issue. Without the right intentional protocols in place, though, this new admissions policy could potentially do more harm than good. Thus, I present some challenges. Number one, Georgetown is attempting to use a legacy policy that has historically exclusively benefited white students, since most students of color did not have parents and grandparents who attended college. Legacy may not be a one-size-fits-all policy. What works for one population of students might not work well for another. Number two, how are individuals supposed to know or determine if they are actually descendants of the original 272 slaves? Slaves didn't typically have access to such records, and it might not have a robust family tree to track their ancestors' tree. Ultimately, it would be very difficult. Also, once the descendants of slaves are admitted, what do they do from there? What if they do not have the appropriate funding? In what ways is Georgetown University considering gathering funds to actually support these students once they are gained admission? Number four, the last one. Additionally, once the students have successfully made it on campus, what services are there to support them? How will they be perceived by the rest of the student body? Although a different brand of legacy, it is likely that these students will receive treatment different from typical legacy students. While I do agree that access and opportunity is important, I also believe that the next steps, like student support services and academic services, specifically for these students, are equally important. These services need to be present on campus for these descendant students in order for them to persist and graduate. Thank you for watching and listening.